Hey, listen, say what you want. A win's a win. The Colts did it. They're 5-1, and that was not an easy game for the Indianapolis Colts to go out there and win. Now, a lot of people, maybe some of you included, are going to go out and say things like, oh, it was a sloppy win, or it's just the Cardinals, and they had their backup quarterback in, and all that type of stuff. And I just don't really think it's all that fair for a number of different reasons. Number one being the most obvious, losing Charvarius Ward before the game in the fashion in which they did, that is a very big deal, right? Because it's not like you were missing him from the start of the week and were able to build your entire game plan around the fact that he wasn't going to be in the game. His presence was very much a part of what they were trying to do there. And so much so where you really kind of saw Jonathan Edwards, at least in my opinion, this is what I saw, is that they sort of just plugged him into the Charvarius Ward role because not for anything, what else were you supposed to do? Okay. Your game plan had nothing to do with your number one corner getting knocked unconscious in pregame warmups 30 minutes before the game started. So you're down him. And then, of course, you're already down Kenny Moore. You're down Jalen Jones. It's just a lot to ask. And the Colts at this point, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I'm close to the number. They've had 8 different guys as starters at corner through now 6 games this season. And keep in mind, none of those 8 are Jalen Jones or Justin Wally, the 2 guys who are projected to be atop the depth chart on the outside opposite of Charvarius Ward. So all I'm saying is a little bit of slack, a little bit of grace, I think is fair when you talk about the Colts secondary's performance in this game. You also have to keep in mind, the Cardinals had a lot to play for, both as a team and that backup quarterback you refer to, whose name, of course, is Jacoby Brissett. And I'll tell you what, in the NFL, you don't want to catch a team coming off of a loss like the Cardinals had to the Titans in the week before they played the Colts. Like, a team will never be more alert. They'll never feel more motivated. They'll never feel more urgency than when you catch them off of a performance like that. Why? Because they're looking to respond. They need to respond, quite frankly. And any sense of safety, any lull that the team has fallen into, at least for 1 week only, they're more alert than ever before. You can look back to Miami's week 2 performance after we absolutely obliterated them in week 1 as a recent example of that type of thing. And then, of course, if you're looking at Jacoby Brissett, don't forget now, there's an alternate universe where he gets a second shot at the starting job for the Indianapolis Colts headed into that 2020 season had they not signed Phillip Rivers. Keep in mind, the Colts in 2019, a lot of people forget this. They were 5-2 with Jacoby Brissett behind center before he got injured. So if you don't think that Jacoby Brissett at times, particularly coming into a week like this, looks back at that time, remembers how things went down in Indianapolis, and it doesn't give him some sort of mixed emotions about his time with the team, and that isn't kind of part of why he went out and played the way he did, you're missing a major piece of what makes a competitor tick. And Jacoby Brissett, say what you want about his talents, he's absolutely a competitor at the quarterback position. So these are all things, even if they weren't directly identified prior to the game, those things coupled with the Charvarius Ward injury gave the Cardinals everything they needed, all the ingredients in the pot to come up with an upset here against the Indianapolis Colts. And then finally, of course, you'd be remiss. Like, you can't talk about how good the Colts were in this game without giving the Cardinals some credit on the defensive side of the football. That defense is legit, and we knew that coming in. You've not only got players across the board on that defense, but you have production too. One of the best red zone defenses in football, one of the best scoring defenses in football. And the reality is, if you're the Indianapolis Colts, you're not just going to be able to run through every defense you verse like a hot knife through butter, right? Like, that's just not how it's going to go. And also, if a bad day, if a sloppy day for the Colts offense is 31 points, over 100 rushing yards, 50% on third down, and 355 total yards, you're going to take that as a Colts fan. You have to. If not, nothing is going to please you, because that's what we saw. We saw what the NFL actually is. There are no bad teams in this league. You have teams with bad records, and you have teams that are worse than other teams, but there's no truly bad teams in the sense that you can just go out and assume a win versus anyone. Football's hard, right? Like this was a competitive football game. And in competitive football games, you're going to have ups and downs. Like it's not going to go perfect. There's going to be ebbs and flows to what it is that you're seeing. And that's what it is that we saw. But the great teams find ways to win games in moments like this. And that's exactly what the Colts were able to do. Keep in mind, the Colts, they didn't win the time of possession in this game. They didn't win the turnover battle. They're going into the fourth quarter down 21-17 in this game. It's just a gritty win for the Indianapolis Colts. And it's the type of win that really you want to see. You want to experience games like this because they prepare you for bigger moments down the line. And that game, quite frankly, is a game that we've grown accustomed to the Colts losing over the course of the past however many years, but not this year, not this team. And I'll tell you what, here's just a side note. We've seen a lot of great offenses, right? Particularly those of you who are closer to my age, right? Who have really just been a fan for the 2000s, right? Like we've seen some of the best offenses this league has to offer, some of the best quarterbacks this league has to offer. And this offense that we look at this season, to my eye, it has to be one of the best that I've personally ever witnessed. Now, I have no numbers to back it up, but I'm nearly certain, right? Like sometimes the eye test, you don't need any more than that. I am certain that there are a whole bunch of numbers, perhaps some of you guys know them and comment them, that would support exactly what it is that I'm saying. And it's not that Jones is better than Luck or Peyton Manning. It's not the point. But when you just look at the collective of this offense, what they're able to do through the air and on the ground, it's remarkable, right? And by the way, it's the same core, right? It's the same core that we've had. It's a cover for a different day, but this is the same core of guys that Chris Ballard had put together prior to this season. And now all of a sudden we're in love with what it is that we have. But, again, a conversation for a different day. And we could sit here and we could talk about Quentin Nelson and how as a guard he's still is able rather, to pop off the screen like your favorite player on your fantasy football team. Or we could talk about Alec Pierce and his return and how he was able to make big plays when they needed him the most, which is all he does. Every single time you ask Alec Pierce to make a play, he makes it. We could talk about how Tyler Warren is the best damn tight end in the entire NFL. But for me, and I hate to do this because you want to celebrate the whole team, this game was about Daniel Jones, Dimebag Danny, Indiana Jones, who continues to show a side of himself that nobody really saw coming. Nobody expected this. Like, sure, some people, myself included, saw a path to success, but this has been the best case scenario for Daniel Jones and the Indianapolis Colts to the 100th degree. And there is no doubt in my mind after a game like this that guy right there, number 17 behind center, Daniel Jones, that's the franchise quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. We'll talk about what he did in this game that brings me there and kind of what I've seen overall that makes me feel that way. We'll also talk about the performance of the defense, which was less than ideal. And we'll talk about what I think the real takeaway should be from that performance, because I don't think it's what everyone else is going to tell you should be the takeaways from that performance. But before we do all that, you know what it is. My name is Justin. This right here is the Riding the Bench Colts podcast. As always, ask anyone watching and enjoying the show, go ahead, shoot a like. It's going to help us get out to as many Colts fans as humanly possible. Of course, subscribe if you want to be a part of the journey. We are so close to 4,000 subscribers. So if you keep coming back and you haven't done it yet, now's probably about the time. And if it's your first time here and you're enjoying what it is that you're hearing, and you appreciate the fact I waited about 10 damn minutes to ask you for something, hit that subscribe button. Never miss an episode again. Of course, audio listeners, leave a five-star review. Let the people know how much you're enjoying the show. And most importantly, be civil in the comment section. You don't know what the person on the other end of the keyboard is going through today. But without further ado, let's get back into what it is that we were talking about. Starting with Daniel Jones. Now, let me just say this. When I say Daniel Jones is the franchise quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts, that's not me making a case to go on and extend him right now. If I'm the Colts, I would feel like I have to see the season out. Like it is just week 6, right? You're talking about from a financial commitment standpoint, it's just wise to see the season out. And then on Daniel Jones's side, I think it's wise for him to see the season out as well. So that's not the case I'm trying to make. We're not there yet. The Colts' hardest part of their schedule isn't even here yet. But what I'm doing is letting you in on what it is that I'm seeing. And what I see is a guy, number one, that I think will handle that part of the schedule just fine. I see a great football player in Daniel Jones. I see a great quarterback. I see a guy who can make every throw in the book. I see a guy that isn't being careless with the football. I see a guy that's dog tough, takes the hits. He's a competitor, and a guy that fits perfectly into what it is that Shane Steichen wants to do with this offense. And what he did in this game was just another layer, another page in that story that he's been writing this season. Because the game he played up into the fourth quarter was far from perfect. He had a solid day. Like, don't let anyone tell you that Daniel Jones wasn't playing well. He was, but there were moments that he would have wanted back. And to come out on a day like that, that was somewhat up and down from that perspective, and to play the way he did in the fourth quarter with the way that game was going, both in terms of the back and forth nature of it and the way your defense was playing. When the Colts needed touchdowns, not field goals on offense, it's just what great players do. How he responded in that fourth quarter, it's what great quarterbacks do, right? And so often in the NFL, it comes down to essentially, can your quarterback propel you to victory? Like so often in the playoffs, what I'll do is I'll just err on the side of the quarterback, because at the end of the day, you're talking about a game that comes down to the last 5 minutes. And ultimately, you need a guy where you can look and say, I can trust him to make more plays than the other guy when it matters the most. And Daniel Jones has been able to do that on a number of occasions this year, this game being the most prominent of which. And so many people, when they talk about the quarterback position, they talk about the mental side of the game. It's a buzzword that gets thrown around. And when they say that, a lot of the times they're referring to the ability to read the defense, to make the right play with the ball. Like, that's all people think about. But what often gets missed when you're talking about the mental side of the game at the quarterback position, particularly at all positions, of course, but the quarterback even more so, it's the mental toughness to stick with it, to stay the course, and to be unfazed and unbothered by the ups and downs of a football game, to stay locked in for all four quarters and not let a bad moment turn into a bad game, right? That common buzzword is guys need to have a short-term memory. Daniel Jones does exactly that. And I'll tell you what, this is going to sound like a joke to you, but I'm dead serious because I do speak from this perspective. I was a quarterback for a flag football team for a number of seasons. Now, that's not much. I'm not saying that I have NFL experience, but what I am saying is that I do speak from probably more legitimate experience than a lot of people you listen to on that front, kind of being the guy running the show from that front, being the guy expected to throw the football, facilitate the offense. And I can just tell you, the hardest part was not seeing what the defense was doing. The hardest part was not throwing the ball. The hardest part easily was when things were not going your way, to be able to stick with it. It was easily the hardest part, to move on to the next throw, the next drive. It's monumentally difficult to do when momentum is swinging, to stick with it. And it's what makes me so confident in the fact that what we're seeing out of Daniel Jones isn't just a hot streak, but I think it's who he is. The adversity that Daniel Jones has faced up until this point in his career, like, there are just very, very few guys at the quarterback position who have dealt with it. And when you deal with those types of things, one of two things can happen. You can either break or you can grow. And for some time, there's no doubt, Daniel Jones was broken, right? That was a guy whose confidence was down in the gutters. But now, in 2025, on October 13th, for the Indianapolis Colts, you have a guy who seemingly has hit the next stage in his development. He's arrived, he's hit his prime, and has grown because of all the experiences he has had. It feels like right now, from the mental toughness aspect of the game, nothing could stop him. Like, I think in his mind, I would assume it can't get any worse than what he's experienced. And I think that adversity has made him the guy he is now. And now that confidence is built back up, he's got that change of scenery with the Colts. I just think the scars that he has from his time with the Giants and everything he went through there, I think makes him uniquely qualified to be the quarterback of this team. And I'm just excited he's here. And I'm looking forward to many more years of Daniel Jones, because I do think that what I'm seeing, this is not a fluke. This is not a hot streak. This is not a moment in time. I think you're looking at exactly who Daniel Jones is, and I think there's still room for growth. He's 28. He's not 33, right? We've got about 5, 7, 8 years of Daniel Jones playing at a really high level. If he is to keep this up, I make the case for you that I think he will, quite frankly. Now that I've had that entire diatribe about Jones, let's talk about the defensive side of the football in this game. And people are going to talk a lot about the pass rush. And they should. It's not to say that the pass rush was excellent in this game. They're going to talk about the secondary, and they should. It's not that the secondary was all that great in this game, right? So, like, these are two observations. When people say they didn't play well, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that they played a great game in the face of the evidence that we saw on the screen, or for some of you in person. But at the same time, there are some nuances to that conversation. Like, for the secondary, number one, like, I don't feel like there's much more of an explanation needed for that than what I said at the top of the show. My biggest issue wasn't even really with the secondary. It wasn't with the pass rush. It was with the tackling in this game. I don't have any numbers on missed tackles, but there was just far too often where I'm looking and saying, hey, guys, can we make the tackle? And again, in the NFL, sometimes that is what it is. Like, sometimes games like this just happen, and it could have just been one of those days. Like, I don't want to make a mountain out of a molehill, but at the same time, you don't want to make a molehill out of a mountain, right? You don't want to minimize something that was a big deal. And guys are going to also say, like, oh, you know, the guys in the secondary, that's no excuse for them having a day like that, and you got to be next man up. And, like, in theory, like, all this rah rah stuff, like they play the game and they know how this stuff works, right? And that's no disrespect. I know that came off very condescending. In fact, I kind of retract that a little bit. But my point is that stuff, in theory, all makes sense. I agree with you from a mentality standpoint, but it does kind of ignore the reality of how difficult it is to accomplish these things. It's one thing to say it; it's another thing to actually go do it, right? If it was as easy to do it as it was to say it, there would be no incompletions, there would be no interceptions, right? None of these things would happen. So that's just the truth. But I will say this about the defense. If we're to look at it half full, they made the stops they needed to make when they needed to make them. Now, that's not just the stop at the end of the game, Chris Lamont's on Trey McBride, but also the takeaway from Jacoby Brissett following that inopportune Daniel Jones interception. Mekhi Blackman, again, I thought moments like that sort of showed who this team is, which is a team that has kind of gotten over the hill, right? They're over that hump. They're no longer losers. Make no mistake. The Colts are winners. Now, should they make a move in the secondary? I mean, how many can they possibly make? That's my personal opinion on that situation. Like, there's only so many roster spots you have, and it's not like the Colts don't have guys. Like, to bring in a guy in the secondary, you'd have to get rid of someone. And you can't cut guys like Kenny Moore, Charvarius Ward, Jalen Jones, right? Like, you can't get rid of these guys. They're just hurt. Like, it just is what it is. So what they have, in my opinion, in all of those guys that I just mentioned, I think works well. It's just a matter of getting them all on the field. So for me, it's more so about getting healthy than it is about getting someone else when it comes to the corner room. And at 5-1, at some capacity, it does buy you the luxury of kind of waiting for that process to play out. I think if you make a move, if you're the Colts right now, if it's between the secondary and the pass rush, I think it's got to be as a pass rusher. An upgrade there would help this team a lot. Like, I think Kwity Paye, I think he's a lot better than most people are going to let off. But I think Ebukam is the guy. If I'm thinking, who would I get rid of? Having a pick. Like, if you're a team that's selling at the trade deadline and you're looking to get rid of a pass rusher, there's not many teams that can give you the draft capital and a pass rusher to supplement the loss of that guy like the Colts can right now. And I think it makes them kind of a perfect trade candidate for someone looking to unload that at, this time of the year when it's kind of like, are we going to make a run? Are we not? Another solution for the Colts in the pass rush, if you ask me, can we just let Laiatu Latu loose at a certain point? I understand why you would want a guy like Kwity Paye or a guy like Tyquan Lewis out there from a run-stopping perspective. So I understand him being off the field for them. But at this point, in any scenario, other than for him to just catch a breath real quick, what the hell is Samson Ebukam ever doing out there ahead of Laiatu Latu? Now, I'm sure there's an answer. Lou Anarumo, Smooth Lou Gabagoo, he's no scrub as a defensive coordinator. But I don't know. I mean, if you're looking to be more consistent as a pass rush and, throughout the course of a game, right? Because the Colts have spurts, right? But we're talking about consistent pressure throughout the course of the game, which in fairness, there's a level of that might be an unrealistic expectation from us, the fans. Like, if teams were going to come out and have 7 sacks every week, teams would come out and have 7 sacks every week. Like, that's not how it works. I understand that. But, Latu right now, this week marks his highest snap percentage of the season by a margin, with 73% of the snaps But watching this game, I mean, how many times in this game were you looking and saying, why isn't Latu out there right now? Could that 73% not easily be 80, 85%? I'm not asking a whole lot. Like, that's not uncommon out of the best edge rushers in football to have that many snaps. And I just think if you're the Colts and you're not going to bring someone in from the outside, if there's anyone that's going to boost the consistency of this unit to generate a pressure throughout the course of the game, it's Latu. Other notes on the defensive side of the football. I think the defensive tackle group right now is playing excellent on all fronts, right? Like, of course, you have DeForest Buckner. Of course, you have Grover Stewart. But man, Neville Gallimore, Adebaware, I mean, they've just been absolutely spectacular in their roles, of course, when you've used them. Adebaware has really become a very viable pass rusher from the inside, and then Gallimore has done everything they've asked. So I don't think that it's a unit that's all that far off. I'm talking about the defensive line as a whole from being one that's disruptive. And I think you see it in spurts in this game as well. Like I saw some, I don't know the exact numbers, but I think they generated a pressure on 48.5% of the snaps. I don't quite know what warrants that. Like what actually shows up as a pressure in the statistics. It didn't quite feel that way, but it does speak to the fact that we can all admit there were moments and stretches in this game where they were getting home. But if you can just get another guy on the opposite side of Latu that warrants the same amount of attention as him, I just think it opens up the floodgates for this unit. And I do expect the Colts to be buyers at the trade deadline. I'm just not so sure if it'll be a blockbuster deal like we expect or what everyone thinks. Again, I say we expect. I don't expect it to be a blockbuster move, but it can be. We don't know. But that's kind of my thoughts on the defensive line, which I think overall is like a good unit, but one piece would bring them like to another level right now. And that's ultimately when you're as good as the Colts, that's kind of what you're looking to do. I mean, I think the Colts kind of sense right now that this could be a special season. I think they sense that if you're going to make a run, it's right now. And I do expect them to be buyers in some capacity at the trade deadline as a result of that. Next note on defense, Jermaine Pratt, I thought was pretty damn good in this game, if you ask me, particularly with what we've seen out of the will linebacker position. Like, I just thought he was a stabilizing force. And there were times where I saw him calling things out and letting guys know what they needed to do. These were not the types of things that we were seeing out of the guys we had out there prior to him. And obviously his advantage, his biggest, number one, he's a good football player. And then number two, Lou Anarumo is presumably running the same exact scheme with the same exact language. So they're really which allows him to come in and in 1 week be the full-time starter at their will linebacker position. So I think, as expected, great pickup there. Those are my takeaways from the game. I think we have some other things to talk about. I think there's a very large conversation to have about Daniel Jones right now, both in terms of the extension and in terms of kind of the MVP conversation and whether or not he deserves to be in that. My take on that? Well, it'll be in another episode. I think there's all types of things to talk about, and we'll talk about them as the week goes on. But without further ado, that's what we had for today. My name is Justin. This right here is the Riding the Bench Colts podcast. And as always, go Colts.